I'm Cindy. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, looking at the ring in my hand. It's my grandmother's ring, which has been passed down for 3 generations. Now, it's just a heavy reminder of a love that once was and a future that will never be. A few weeks ago, he stood on my sister's porch, looking haggard and broken. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out this ring, saying he wanted me to have it back. I took it, and in that moment, I knew that something between us had changed forever. It wasn't just the ring, it was me. I'd finally learned my worth. Let me take you back to where it all began. I met Ryan at a music festival through mutual friends. He was charming, confident, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. We hit it off immediately and started dating. 3 years later, he proposed at the same restaurant where we had our first date. I said yes without hesitation, thinking we were building a life together. Ryan came from a well-to-do family. His parents were traditional, with high expectations and a penchant for grand gestures. They insisted on covering most of the wedding expenses. The wedding was set for May, with deposits paid, the venue booked, and a photographer chosen. But around October, things started to change. At first, it was small things. He'd take longer to reply to my texts, sigh when I talked about my day at work, and make what seemed like harmless jokes that were actually veiled criticisms. I'd cook a nice dinner, and he'd point out what I could have done better. When I planned a date, he'd mention a better place we could have gone. Then, the word more entered our conversations. I just want more out of life, he'd say. More excitement, more ambition, more drive. When I asked him what that meant, he never gave me a clear answer. That's when Lily came into the picture. She was Ryan's ex-girlfriend from the gym. At first, she was just a name he mentioned casually. But then, going to the gym became his daily routine, 5 days a week, then 6. He'd come home energized in a way he hadn't been with me in months. One day, I asked him directly, "Are you interested in her?" He laughed, told me I was being paranoid, and said I didn't trust him. So, I pushed my instincts aside and told myself I was imagining things. 2 weeks before New Year's, Ryan's parents invited us to their annual party. It was a formal event, with champagne at midnight. The drive there was quiet. "I need to talk to my family tonight," Ryan said. When I asked about what, he just said, "I'll explain later," but he never did. When we arrived, the house was decorated beautifully, with string lights and catered appetizers. Everyone was asking about the wedding, and Ryan's mother said, "You two are perfect together." I forced a smile, but inside, I felt like something was about to break. At 11:30 p.m. Ryan's father gathered everyone in the living room for the toast. He talked about family, new beginnings, and the upcoming wedding in May. Everyone raised their glasses, except Ryan. He stared at the floor, then looked up and said, "My New Year's gift to myself is a separation." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to me. I downed my champagne in one gulp, set the glass down carefully, and stepped outside. The cold December air hit me like a punch, but it was a welcome feeling, a reminder that I was still alive. I called my sister. She picked up on the second ring. "Happy almost New Year," she said. "I need you to do something for me," I replied, skipping the greetings. After a pause, she asked what was wrong. I told her that Ryan had just announced our separation in front of everyone. Her voice sharpened. "Cindy, are you serious?" I wished I wasn't. I asked her to contact the lawyer after the holiday and freeze our joint accounts. She didn't hesitate. "Done," she said. I told her I wanted to protect what was mine. She assured me I was doing the right thing. I walked back inside. Ryan was hugging his mother, and his father was pouring champagne as if nothing had happened. His sister avoided my gaze. I went to the coat closet, put on my jacket, and Ryan finally noticed me. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home." "You are home," he said automatically. I looked into his eyes and said, I'll be out by the weekend. I'm leaving now. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the couch in our apartment, which no longer felt like ours. At sunrise, I started making lists of what was mine, what was his, and what we'd bought together. The next morning, my sister called to say the lawyer opened at 9 a.m. And she'd meet me there. The lawyer was someone I'd consulted quietly before we got engaged. When I'd suggested a prenup, Ryan had reacted as if I'd accused him of betrayal, saying, "If you trust me, why would you need that?" So, I dropped it but kept the paperwork. The lawyer reviewed everything and recommended freezing all joint accounts and assets until we agreed on a split. I told her to do it. By noon, the accounts were locked. By 2 p.m., I was packing. I filled 14 boxes with my clothes, books, electronics, and personal items. At 6 p.m., Ryan came home. He saw me packing and asked what I was doing. I told him I was respecting his decision to separate. He said he'd handled it badly, that he was nervous, and having his family there made it easier. But when I asked easier for who, he didn't answer. I asked him what he actually wanted. He said he needed space to think and figure things out. I told him he wanted the freedom to explore other options while keeping me as a safety net, and that wasn't fair. He didn't have an answer. When I stacked the boxes by the door, he asked where I was going. I said I'd go to my sister's. He asked about the apartment and the wedding. I told him he could do whatever he wanted with them and just leave me out of it. Monday morning, a moving truck came. Ryan was already gone. His side of the closet was half empty, and his toothbrush was missing. The movers were efficient, wrapping my furniture in plastic and labeling the boxes. I watched as our apartment became empty. Around noon, my phone started buzzing. Ryan left voicemails, asking what I'd done to our accounts. I waited an hour and then texted him that my lawyer advised protecting joint assets during a separation. He called, demanding to know why I'd frozen everything. I told him it was standard procedure and that he hadn't told me he was announcing our separation in front of his family. I also mentioned Lily, saying, maybe ask Lily for help. She seems very ambitious. He was silent for a long time, then said it wasn't fair. I agreed, but I said it was accurate. A few days later, Ryan's father called. He said we needed to talk. I was hesitant but agreed to go to their house. When I got there, Ryan's mother said they still considered me family. Ryan's father told me that Ryan had been having doubts for months and that he loved me but wasn't sure he was in love with me. He said Lily had made him question things. I laughed when they said nothing physical had happened, just an emotional connection. I told them that was no excuse for humiliating me in front of everyone. Ryan's mother asked me to talk to Ryan and give him a chance to apologize. I shook my head. I told them I could never trust him again. Every late night out, every gym session, I'd always wonder. On Friday morning, Ryan showed up at my sister's house. He looked like a mess, with dark circles under his eyes and unkempt hair. He said he'd made a huge mistake, that he panicked and thought he wanted something different. He said he missed me and us. I was calm. I told him I couldn't forgive him because forgiveness requires trust, and he'd broken mine. He started crying and asked about the wedding. I told him to cancel it and get whatever refunds he could. He took out the ring and gave it back to me. 3 months have passed since then. The wedding was officially canceled in February, and we lost about $15,000 in deposits. Ryan's parents insisted on paying their share. His mother sent me a handwritten, apologetic card, saying they missed me and still considered me family. I didn't respond. I heard that Ryan and Lily dated for about a month, but it ended quickly. Lily was more interested in the chase than in a real relationship. Ryan told our friends he was devastated and regretted what he'd done. I moved into my own 1-bedroom apartment last month. It's quiet and it's mine. I'm not dating yet. I'm enjoying the stillness and the freedom from the constant worry of being someone's backup plan. That phone call I made on New Year's Eve was not just about protecting myself financially, it was about reclaiming my self-worth. I'll never let someone treat me like an option again.